Hello, everybody, and welcome to Two Geeks and One Noob, where we gather friends of similar interests and maybe not so similar and discuss, joke, learn more about, and generally have fun with geek culture. Today, we are continuing our Mount Rushmore series, and we're going to go with our video game heroes this week. So let's get started. Who wants to go first?
Before we get into it, I kind of just want to point something out. This one was considerably harder than doing villains, and I think I realized why. Most video game heroes are written to be either very generic or with just enough character to make them interesting to the player, but still let the player feel immersed as the hero.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I was having a hard time with too. With like some of the ones that I like to play are very much like make your own hero. Like just as an example, and obviously I haven't finished this by any means, but like the Harry Potter game, like I couldn't say, oh, that's my favorite hero because he's me.
Yeah, that's like some characters like that kind of made it, or similar to that, made it on my honorable mentions, but I had to like really think about games because I realized as I was making this list, while I play a lot of like RPGs, I didn't realize how many of them are games like Mass Effect, where it's like I create my own character and everything that the character does is kind of based on the decisions I make while playing the game. And I could easily play through the game 3 or 4 times and have completely different character style and conversations and whatnot. So
Yeah,
exactly.
definitely. But all that being said, there are a few that we can definitely pull out from the rest that are definitely the like absolute here is a hero in a video game. So
yep.
I will say a couple of mine are not exclusive video game heroes, but they are heroes that have been adapted to video game. So
okay. Yeah. Actually,
which we kind of did with the villains as well in some cases. So
true. Yeah, we did. All right.
But yeah, who wants to go first? David, David, why don't you go first?
I don't think you've had a chance to start any of the Mount Rushmore lists. So
yeah, okay, that works.
Go for it.
So number one is Lydia from Skyrim. No, I'm totally kidding.
I was about to say that is a choice.
No. Yeah, my first choice is James Sunderland from Silent Hill 2. So mentioned him in the villains episode briefly, but he is the player character, very definitively written as a troubled protagonist. But like the entire game centers around him fighting manifestations of basically his own desires, his own the whole game centers on him fighting effectively representations of himself, his own desires, his own the things that he suppressed, the his thought life basically. So yeah, that's so James Sunderland is definitely my number one for that one.
Nice. Okay. Cool.
I've always heard good things about those games, but I haven't really gotten to play very many of them. So that's pretty cool to.
Well, I would say Silent Hill 2 and Silent Hill Homecoming, as much crap as Homecoming gets, it actually is pretty good. It's basically a standalone expansion of 2.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Nice.
Cool. Sorry. Well, Dan, you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. I guess I'll go with one of my heroes turned video game heroes just to kind of get them out of the way. But I think I'd have to say number one is Spider-Man from the PS4 Marvel Spider-Man game. There's just nothing you can go wrong with Spider-Man. So
yeah, like the writing and storytelling for that game, and it was just so good. And there's not many video games that have actually gotten like that emotional a connection with me, but that one was definitely one of them. So I'm not at all surprised to see that one on your list for a multitude of reasons.
Yeah. I mean, the gameplay itself is a huge plus because it's so immersive. But then that storyline, like you said, is just it. And we mentioned it in the villain one as well because I had a couple of villains from that game on my list, and it was just like I don't know, like Spider-Man. He's always been one of my favorite heroes, growing up and stuff, and then to be able to just like, okay, so here's what I'll say is even in the older Spider-Man games, like it was good, but it wasn't as immersive. Mm-hmm. So I didn't feel quite as connected to the character as I did with the PS4 one because you could, like you said, you could feel that emotion through the acting, through the
animation, the story build-up. Like everything that they did with that was just done so well.
Yeah. And honestly, even with the design change of him, like when you went from PS4 to PS5, I didn't mind that because it kind of it made him look a little younger, a little bit more honestly a little bit more like Tom Holland, which was kind of cool. But like to go from one of those to the other, it was like, okay, it's different, but it still feels good, you know? So yeah, I think they did a really good job with that one.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why that game and even the Miles Morales expansion both just got so much attention and fanfare, and why there's so much hype for the upcoming sequel. Like,
oh yeah,
everything about it was just done so well, and it's like they saw the popularity of the old Arkham games and said, yeah, we can do that. We can make it just as good, if not better. So
yeah. The other cool thing about that game is, or I guess both of those games, is like the seamlessness of the cinematics and stuff. Going from that to the gameplay, it wasn't too long, so like you could still feel very connected to the character because you're in the story, but then right out of the gate it's like, okay, I'm there, you know?
Yeah, it was all the same animation between the cutscenes and the gameplay. So it was just a seamless transition where, like, while I do like the really high graphics cinematics and whatnot, I also like that seamless transition, like what you were commenting on, being able to just like you walk out of Doc Ock's lab and it's like immediately pops you up onto a platform and you can start swinging right away, and it's not, you're not having to sit there for a loading screen or anything.
Yeah. Is great.
And another thing that I love that they did in this one that I don't think they did, they might have done it in the PS2 version. Your web slinging could only happen if you were you could only go as high as the nearest building.
Yeah,
that was not a thing on the PS2 one, unfortunately, because I was swinging well above the buildings on that one. So, but yeah, that in this new one, like they really stuck to as close to realistic as you get with comic books.
Right. Yeah.
The physics of it were very well done.
And web slinging felt fantastic.
Yeah.
Like going from Liberty Island to the far side of Manhattan felt awesome to do.
There's really just no complaints for that game. So yeah, and knowing your comic book love, I already expected that one to be on the list, but also knowing how much all of us loved that game. Yeah, it's a good spot. It's a good one to have on there for sure.
Yep.
Well, my first one, I went with one that has been a game that I go back to periodically, and I've bought it on like every console I can get it on. Is I picked Jack from Jak and Daxter, and like I love the Jak and Daxter games so much. Like when I say I bought it on every console I can, I legitimately mean I've bought it on every console I can. I was like, I have it had it on PS2, got the remake on PS3, I got the digital on my PS4, and then I immediately downloaded it on my PS5. So like, I love those games.
I'm gonna have to pick those up
backwards
one day.
compatibility.
Oh man. So what I loved about Jack is the fact that he starts off as like the silent hero that doesn't say anything, like the kind of the classic old school character style with he just doesn't really talk and he's just running around kind of happy-go-lucky goofy dude. And in the second one, like it starts off with him effectively being tortured by the Baron of that city and like doing all of these experiments on him, and he goes from being this silent hero that's kind of goofy to just very like edgy and dark, and he's got a chip on his shoulder, which understandably so. He just spent the last couple years being tortured, so it's like of course he's got a chip on his shoulder at this point. It was just like a really it was a very jarring change that was done very well. It wasn't one of those changes where it's just like, oh, that just came out. I kind of like it's the opposite of what happened with Gladio in Final Fantasy 15, where it's like went from the cool bro to just a jerk, and there was like no redeeming quality to it, and he wasn't like understanding what everyone else was going through. It's like, okay, no, Jack went through these things by himself, and he's kind of a jerk, but you understand why, and he's still like fiercely loyal to his friends and the people that earn his trust, and he will fight to keep any of them safe if he needs to.
Nice. It's funny too because every time you say Jak and Daxter, I always think Ratchet and Clank first.
Those came out around the same time frame, and they've like Ratchet and Clank has been the more long-standing one because they've had a lot more games of that one come out. But I mean, the first Jak and Daxter and the first Ratchet and Clank came out around the same time. And the first Jak and Daxter didn't do as well because they did kind of try to go that typical platformer route, similar to Ratchet and Clank. And since he was just the silent, quirky hero, the game didn't really stand out as like, well, this game is cool, but it doesn't do what Ratchet and Clank can do or did better in the first one. And so that was why they made such a dramatic change to the character in the second one, and that's what helped the second and third games both stand out from the first one as well as the Ratchet and Clank games.
Yeah, nice.
Okay.
Yeah, not to throw it off or anything. It's just for some reason that's what always comes to mind whenever someone says that.
No, I feel that because before I played the Jak and Daxter games, I always like associated those two franchises together because of how close together they were on the release. So I'm right there with you.
Nice. Cool. So David, what's number 2?
So my number 2 is Sully from the Uncharted series.
Oh,
okay.
So honestly, like as much as I love the character Nathan Drake, he's kind of in many ways he's kind of the stereotypical hero. But Sully's character always kind of had this, I mean, pointedly paternal, but at the same time was a bit more laid back and jovial. It's not to say dads can't be, but more in the sense of like he's a guy you always knew came in. He always came in clutch. He was always there when it mattered the most. But that, and also just some of the best dialogue in the series comes from Sully. It's either these lines that you just don't expect of his backstory. It's like, wow, that was uncouth, or it's these very poorly timed jokes that just make him seriously endearing.
See, I would more put him in the fun uncle category.
There you go. Yes,
because he has a fatherly way about him, but he's more selfish than a father, like a typical father would be.
Yeah, that's a really good description of him. Actually, like he definitely goes to bat when he needs to, but it's always
Absolutely.
there's always that underlying what can I do for myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the way you said he comes in clutch though. Like when you need him, he's there.
Mhm.
But yeah. Cool. Yeah,
That's
I
a
like
good
that
one.
one.
I like that one a lot.
Yeah.
Even as the one that's probably played the least Uncharted of the three of us, I still can understand and appreciate that one.
Yeah. So if you don't mind, I'll piggyback on that one because my second one is actually Nathan Drake.
Oh, nice.
Oh, nice.
So
See,
I have
Caleb,
to
that's
say,
how you do a follow on without taking someone else's.
I don't remember doing that, but all right. Oh, that was when I didn't know it was on your list. That's a little
True.
different.
True.
yeah.
Gotta be quicker than that.
But yeah, so like I honestly don't consider him to be as much of a typical hero. Like he definitely has that uh like Tomb Raider, Indiana Jones, like that kind of typical hero, but like I wouldn't necessarily call him a typical hero because
Mhm.
he's more like he's in it for the adventure, he's in it um for the money and everything like that, but then also like as things are going on, he's like, "Oh, no, this is something that's going wrong. We have to take care of this."
Yeah.
You know?
It's kind of a
So,
hero by proxy.
yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I mean, he still kind of has the it belongs in a museum mentality, but just so long as it's his museum. And by
Right.
museum, I mean vault.
Yeah. If he can get money out of it, great.
Yeah.
But still such a fun game to play. Like I have to put a caveat on this because for my list here, I was only putting heroes of games that I've actually finished games with, so that I could actually know the full storyline. So this one is a bit of a caveat because I've only finished one of the games. But I think it's the best game out of them. Is not, Uncharted 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've at least finished one game with the series.
Yeah, but you've played the other ones, even if you didn't finish them. So you still have that understanding of the character.
Yeah, I've played. Oh, you know what? I have finished 3. So I finished 3 and I finished 4, and I played 1, and I think I started 2, but I never finished 1 or 2.
Okay.
But yeah,
Even I
so
finished one. That's the only one I finished. But
well, it's really difficult to go from playing 4 to back to 1
yeah, that's
because
It
fair.
is. Even in the remasters, it's
drastically
hard.
different. Yeah, because I bought the Nathan Drake
Collection.
set, yeah, collection with my PS4, and
Nice.
yeah, so so I played 3 first, or like I'd played 3 before I had it, so I played through 3 again, and then I was like, all right, I should probably go back and play number 1 to know what the rest of the story is. But yeah, but again, like the character himself, and I think along with yours, David, like the two of them as a duo is just like, okay, this is what makes a good video game, you know?
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
That storyline mixed with the action, and I, I always like the games where you can climb stuff.
That explorer stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the adventure games and stuff. Those are so much fun. But yeah, so that's my number 2.
Nice. Nice. I like it. So my number 2, when I showed this one to David, he was like, "Of course he's on your list." So this probably won't be a surprise to you either. But my number 2 pick is Sora from Kingdom Hearts.
Okay.
And like I have this, for anyone that knows me knows how much I love the Kingdom Hearts series as a whole. And I mean, I was like, I've got a tattoo of Kingdom Hearts on me, for goodness sake. Like, yeah, I clearly like the series. But yeah, I had to go with Sora. It was kind of a tricky one because Sora has some unique characteristics that make him kind of an obnoxious character in the first game. He's just like this goofy kid that doesn't really know what he's doing. And there's some like these kind of like stereotypical like anime tropes almost in the game, and all 3 of the games. But just seeing like kind of what he goes through and just the different stuff that he develops as he goes through the 3 different games. And also just like it's a big nostalgia pick for me too, because I started playing the Kingdom Hearts games shortly after the first one came out because I saw it at a friend's house. I was like, oh, this looks pretty cool. And like I've put hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours into the trilogy as a whole. That's another one that I've bought on like every console I've owned. So it's just, yeah, it's very much a nostalgia pick for Sora, but from a franchise that I love very much. So yeah, Sora was just had to be on the list for me. So
noise.
So
I know nothing about those games, so it's just like
which is funny considering your love of Disney. Like it's kind of funny that you haven't played through Kingdom Hearts because you go through so many different Disney worlds throughout the games. Yeah, it's kind of funny that you haven't played that one. And David has.
Very different time in my life.
Yeah.
True.
So I've had the interest of the Disney side of it. But the anime side I'm not as interested in, and that play
like
style.
The anime side is really just the design of some of the characters. Like it's got more of the like JRPG-ish elements, like pretty open world, but they're not like so massive that it's difficult to explore and figure out where you're going or what you're doing. Like they're pretty manageable sizes. And you can easily explore and not get super lost or like stuck. Is like, okay, where do I go next? Where even am I right now? Like they're far easier to explore in Kingdom Hearts than they are in some other standard traditional JRPGs.
Oh yeah,
I would definitely recommend it. A, knowing your love of Disney, and B, just how good the games actually are. Like it's a series that I can recommend to you, and I think you'd enjoy.
Yeah. I'd like to give it a try at some point, definitely.
David?
Okay, so my number 3 is Jade from Beyond Good and Evil.
Okay.
So Beyond Good and Evil is a bit of an older game, and the sequel has been in development hell for 15 plus years. It's kind of coming up on a Duke Nukem Forever territory there. But Jade is not the traditional hero. She's a photojournalist, but she's having to, or an investigative reporter, one or the other. I can't remember. It's been a long time since I've played it. But I just remember her hero sticking with me. She was one of the first heroes that wasn't poignantly some hero. She was just kind of Joe Blow that was blown into the situation, and she manages to come out on top. It was also kind of my first introduction to stealth gaming. But that was one of the main reasons why I would say Jade would stick with me, and she was one of the first that kind of came out of nowhere of not being the traditional hero. Very much heroic in the fact of she saw what was right and needed to happen, but definitely kind of broke the mold. Like, no, we can branch out a little bit further here. So yeah, Jade.
Okay.
Nice. I'm looking at a picture of what she looks like, and it looks like she's a photojournalist.
Yep.
She's got a camera in her hand, so in almost every picture. It looks like there is a pig character.
Yes, that is actually her dad.
Okay.
I say dad. Adopted father. So
yeah.
Yeah, he kind of looks after her. I'm pretty sure she was an orphan. Can't remember. Again, it's been forever since I played it. But that world was actually a lot of fun to play around in because there were these characters who were anthropomorphized animals. Think Rocket, basically.
Okay.
So there was a little bit of the stereotypical collectibles type thing going on with the gameplay, but it was more focused towards the action, more towards the storyline, and the world building as well. So I mean, as your character is as Jade is uncovering this grand conspiracy going on, you're learning more about the world as she's learning more about it. So yeah, it was a really interesting dynamic, and at the time I think it was fairly unique. But yeah,
it's funny because I'm looking at, like I said, I'm looking at the pictures of the characters and stuff, and like seeing how it was very much that early PlayStation graphics and stuff, and then I'll see like the updated like concept versions of it, and I'm like, oh man, that actually looks like it'd be really cool.
yeah, I think the updated version, they were planning to make it kind of that seamless open world that we're coming to know and love now. But I think they were also kind of, I don't know what happened, to be honest, because the game was a cult classic at the time.
Yeah.
And then whenever they first announced it, E3 2016, I think. Anyway, when they first announced, like, no crap, here's the trailer. We have something to show you about this. They showed it off, and the crowd went nuts. And there were lots of people freaking out, like, "Holy cow! They're actually greenlighting this. Awesome, let's go!" And I'm not really sure what happened past that point. So who knows? We might see it still, but at this point, I don't know if it's going to be able to survive the hype.
Yeah,
it'll come out when we get Half-Life 3.
Shut up.
Sorry, I saw the opportunity. Had to take it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, as for my number 3, going back again to the not so exclusive video game hero, but specifically in one of the games, Batman from Arkham Knight. That one of my all-time favorite Batman games ever. I love everything about Batman in that game. His the gadgets, the open world, the being able to basically fly, like not really fly, but like glide really well, falling with style. And then like just the storyline, especially that ending where like he basically gives up being Batman, but like he I don't know, just it for some reason it just always fascinated me, like the whole thing. And like what you said with like the stealth gaming and stuff, it's like, okay, this is like top level stealth gaming.
That was something that the Batman games did really well, is like balancing out the stealth as well as the combat. It wasn't like some other games where it's like you had to pick one or the other to really make a level effective. Like you could stealth for part of it and then just go gung ho, or you could just go gung ho from the start. Like there's so many options that you could do. Or if you like getting overwhelmed, you could like swing around on the gargoyles and you get some distance between you and the enemies and create a little bit of reprieve and kind of like get rid of their notice of you. And it was just a really good way of doing that. Whereas like there's other games where it's like it would almost punish you if you didn't do it one way or the other the entire level.
Right. Yeah. Which again, like with the whole like what you said earlier with the Spider-Man games actually like went along with it and did the same thing where like you could jump right in, you could stealth, you could all that kind of stuff, which
I think the Spider-Man games, it wasn't as easy to go back into hiding after you had been detected in a level. Once you were detected, like that was kind of it. You were going to have to actually fight the rest of the time.
That's true. Yeah.
Whereas like Batman, it was a lot easier to just gargoyle hop and it's like, bam, they don't see me anymore.
Right. Yeah. With Spider-Man, it was just swing away and come back and it basically starts the thing over again.
You could easily get through an entire level of stealth, but if you accidentally dropped down and got detected, like stealth was over.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, so Batman from Arkham Knight is definitely number 3 or number 1. I don't care which, but yeah, definitely one of my favorites.
Not at all surprised that that's on your list. Like, not even a little bit surprised that's on your list.
I'm glad I can be predictable.
It's not predictable. It's honest.
Yeah.
You guys know me too well.
So my number 3, I went with Kratos from God of War. And specifically, I went with Old Man Kratos from the 2018 version and Ragnarok. And the reason I went with that is because that's where we saw the most character from Kratos, and he wasn't just Rage Monster. And all of the God of Wars before the 2018 God of War, that's pretty much all he was. He was just Rage Monster 24/7. Like he was always angry. He was always wanting to like kill whoever he could. Like there was no chill with Kratos, and like he would just slaughter someone just for his own amusement. It's like, oh hey, I like your shoes. I'm gonna steal those. You're dead now. Like, and that was it. So he was very much like he was the good guy in the original games in the sense that he wasn't the Greek gods screwing over everyone in that region. That's like really the only way you can really classify him as a good guy. But in 2018, like you just see this change in demeanor because he was a father at that point. He had lost his wife. That was how the game was starting, was him setting up the pyre for his wife and him and his son having to go on this adventure to scatter her ashes. That was like the main premise behind, or that was the main goal as you were starting out the game. And so you see a very different, softer, more fragile version of Kratos in 2018. And it is just like he went from being someone that didn't care about anyone else and was only out for himself to being a father and wanting to be a good father because he didn't want to be the same father that caused his daughter to die in the original games. So he was just a completely different person and very soft, but there's like moments throughout the game where you're like in the middle of a boss fight and you see some of that anger coming out and you see that rage is like, oh, that's the Kratos I remember. Is he going to be able to control it this time? So it's just the way that they developed him in the 2018 game and Ragnarok was just so well done and gave such a different take on an already loved character. So that was why I had to put him on the list, was because of how well he developed in the more recent games.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to say, like, that's a really good one because, like, I love how when they can take an established character and change it just enough to where, like, you could recognize the character, but it's developing their character instead of just keeping them the same. And like,
or outright retconning the character.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Like
without retconning.
Like the way that they ended like the third game, there was definitely some teases that there was going to be more, but it was always like, will it actually happen, or was that like them saying like there could be more, but chances are this is the end of it, you know? And so like we never really knew what to expect with the way. But at the end of 3, it's like he's killed the entire Greek pantheon, and like all of Greece is just in utter chaos because they were like controlling various things. And so now it's like there's flooding, there's storms, there's plagues, there's food rot, like there's so many things going on. It's just like, oh man, like Kratos may have, like, he was out for revenge and he kind of sacrificed an entire region for his own selfish gain. And then to see it go from rage monster that sacrificed all of Greece to caring father who's like trying not to be that god of war anymore was a pretty unique and interesting change.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
So my final pick is Corvo Atano from Dishonored.
Okay.
Okay.
So yeah, another stealth entry.
We are shocked.
Yeah, but Corvo, I mean, the game's been out for over 10 years, so I think we're okay. We're okay on spoilers. But anyway, Corvo is one of those characters where they build him up to be this absolute bad. He's a war hero. He's already got the girl. He's pushing forward. He's doing the honorable thing. So he comes home to his lover, who is the empress of the region. He hasn't seen his daughter in a long time. Comes home successful from whatever mission he was on. I can't remember what it was right now. And as they're concluding the debrief of explaining, okay, here's what happened. His daughter runs off, and she grabs him by the arm. He turns around to see her right as the assassin comes through and stabs her. Yeah, it is a brutal opening.
Yeah.
Not Last of Us brutal, but it's brutal.
Not much is Last of Us brutal, in all fairness.
True. Bad comparison. Comparing it to Last of Us, the Last of Us opening is probably not exactly the best way to go. So the daughter lives. She's one of the main heroes to play as in the second one. You can play as either Corvo or Emily in the second one. Moving on. But the entire plot point is, or the entire twist is right at the beginning at that point where everyone is accusing him, like, hey, you killed her. You're the one who had unrestricted access to the Empress. For all we know, your mission failed because none of us know how that went over. So you wanted to hide it all. To take over the empire for yourself. So hence the title of the game. He's been dishonored. The whole plot point is a literal deus machina, where the deity of that world steps in and says, "Hey, yeah. So now that you're nothing, cool. You're gonna be you're gonna be a champion for me now. So I'm endowing you with these powers. So now you run around basically as this supernaturally powered revenant, trying to avenge your lover, save your daughter, get the kingdom back on track, and at the very least clear your name. But just the fact that they put you in such that the developers put you as the main character and put Corvo in such a spot where there is nothing to do but crawl your way back. And the way they craft the story around just that opening scene is why I'm having to recognize him, because he's definitively one of those characters who builds himself back up, and does so from very, very little. So
yeah, nice. Hey, I actually heard about have heard of that one. I'm still gonna look them up though, because Because I always remember looking at the cover of that game and going, "Oh man, that looks so cool!"
And seeing the mask.
Yeah.
Yep.
The mask, the blade, the
mark of the
like
outsider.
You said, the stealth stuff.
Yeah.
Just like, oh man, that looks so cool. But
and the fact that they work out the mechanics so you can be as chaotic as you want to and maintain stealth. That was impressive.
Yeah. Nice. Funny thing too is that this one I always got mixed up with that one called Thief, I think it was called.
Older game, but yeah.
Yeah.
And a remake.
But yeah.
Older game, but it checks out.
I will say the remake did not do great.
Of Dishonored or of
Thief?
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
I didn't like. I think I played a demo or something of it, and I was like, this isn't that great. Which is why I didn't ever play Dishonored. I think because I played the other one, I was like, oh, that doesn't look very good. But yeah,
gotta try it, dude.
Yeah, sounds pretty fun. Well, for my final entry here, I'm going way back, way back, like I did for villains, and I'm gonna go with Crash Bandicoot.
That tracks.
Yep. First PlayStation game I ever played, and so much fun. It's one of those ones where they were able to take a character that was like, okay, why is this even a hero? And go, oh, this is actually really fun. And then do different versions of it too, with like so they did the first 2 games, I think it was, and then they did Crash Team Racing, which is very much like Mario Kart. And like they did so much fun with that, and then they went back and did a third one, I think, and but like each one had its own like merit to it, because like there was like the first one was very straightforward, very just like, okay, we're going to different worlds and stopping the bad guy. Then the second one had like added things of like, oh, you're gonna run away from rocks and polar bears and like stuff like that. No, wait, that wasn't the first one as well, but like there was different things that you could do, like you could ride a baby polar bear in one of them, and just like different stuff like that, and different minions and stuff like that. Just so much fun. And then they would like update different things about his abilities of like I think in the first one he could only jump, but in like the later ones he could double jump and like slide and stuff like that. I don't know, it was just so much fun.
So it's kind of the not Mario.
Yeah, pretty much. It was PlayStation's version of Mario with anthropomorphic Bandicoot. Yeah, so much fun. I like it. I wish I could have gotten the Insane trilogy, which was basically just the remastered versions of it. But sadly, it was always too expensive whenever I looked at it. So
that's a fun series. It's like, I think I mentioned last week, I never really got to play it. Like I've seen a lot of footage of it and whatnot. I personally never got the opportunity to dive into that one.
Yeah, it's cool because like it's one of those ones that it's not something you have to get deeply invested in. But it's still so much fun to where you want to keep playing and like keep like not upgrading necessarily, because it's just you're kind of just learning different things that you can do as you go. But
It's,
yeah,
I mean,
it's kind of a mindless thing.
how much I've played like Ratchet and Clank and Jack and Daxter, like I probably would enjoy it because I feel like those games took some inspiration from Crash Bandicoot. And so I'm sure I would enjoy it if I actually had the chance to like sit down and play it. But
yeah, I think you would.
Yeah, it's very much it was a unique spin on platforming. They made it was considerably harder in a lot of scenes because you'll go forward in the level to a certain point, something will happen, and then you have to basically remember how you got to that point to get out of it. So I mean it definitely played on a little bit more than just the traditional platforming mentality.
Gotcha.
Yeah. It was definitely very, very much linear, but at the same time, like there were certain parts where you would go forward and then you would go backwards down another trail. And it, like there was like a split in the trail, and so you'd go down one and then you'd have to come back down the other way to like get the Wampa fruit or the boxes that you had to open or things like that. So yeah, a lot of fun.
That's pretty cool. I'll have to take time and play it because it's like I've played all of the classic games with the exception of that one. Like even Spyro, like I've played all of the PlayStation classics, so it's a shame that I haven't actually committed to that one yet.
Yeah. See, I think we should get Crash Team Racing and all play together. I think that'd be fun.
That would be an interesting one. So for my final pick, I went with Garrus from Mass Effect because he's such a good character. And it's like I always kind of classify him as like the ultimate bro companion. Like he's always got your back throughout all three games. He's one of only two characters that you have as a playable companion for the entirety of all three games. Like there's other characters that will be there for parts of it, or that will be there for like a single mission, or they'll be like a regular NPC that you kind of interact with, but you don't actually have on your party. Garrus is one of two that is in your party the entire time. And he's like, so he's like that ultimate bro. He's always got your back. He's always like, his dialogue with so many of the other characters throughout the game, as well as your main character Shepard, is always really entertaining and funny. And like he's just like such a fun companion that it's like once you get him, chances are he's going to be in your party basically the rest of the game because he's just that good and that enjoyable of a character. And it was just like I always had him, and it was like three people that I would kind of rotate out, but Garrus was basically always in the party no matter what I was doing. So he's just a fun character. His dynamic with the crew is always fun. He's like always got your back. He is one of the like few characters that he like may not agree with all of the decisions you're making, but he's always got your back because he trusts you to have the best outcome at heart. Whereas like there's other characters, like just to use one of the examples, Ashley from the first game, she just sits there and like complains about literally every decision you make. Even if you do something that she thinks you should do, she'll find a way to complain about it and be like, well, you did this, but I would have done it this way because I'm just so much better than you. And so she's just such an obnoxious character the entire series that's like, if she is the one of the ones, this is a spoiler, but like these games have been out for a long time, so it's on you. You have a choice of saving her or saving one other person, and you're not really in a great spot regardless, because no matter what, one of the the person you save is going to be like against you on a lot of the decisions you make, and it's going to be really difficult and annoying until like the midway point of the third game. So like you're not really winning, but the other one is just slightly less obnoxious than Ashley. So it's like chances are Ashley dies at the first available opportunity and you don't have to worry about her anymore. But like Garrus, he's not like that. He's always got your back, and the rapport and the back and forth. Like there's one scene in the second one where he got injured and was grazed by a bullet, and he has this big scar on his face. And he like asks your playable character Shepard. He's like, "So how do I look?" And one of the options is I mean, no worse than you looked before. So honestly, I'd say it's a win. And he's like, kind of laughs. And he goes, "Oh, dang it! Don't make me laugh. I'm still hurting." So it's just he's just like the ultimate bro. Like I said, like he's always got your back. He's always helping you out, and he always trusts you to make the best decision in the end, even if he doesn't necessarily agree with the way that you're getting there.
Well, I think it's honorable mentions time. Honorable mentions
Yeah, I know
time.
we have a lot of honorable mentions, so I
I
wanted to
have
throw out my
0.
first honorable mention first because I know David's got a longer list than me. So my first one is actually going to be two characters that I'm lumping together because for the same reason. My first two honorable mention is Revan from Knights of the Old Republic and Commander Shepard from Mass Effect. And the reason that I'm lumping those two together and why I didn't pick Shepard for one of my four and I picked Garrus over him is because that's like what I mentioned earlier, where they are the characters that you make them as you're playing through. Every decision you make there is what they're doing. The way that you play the game, it's all of these conversation wheels and dialogue and all of this stuff. It's all what you are doing, and you can make it different every time. You could even go as a bad guy route and go like dark side for Revan or renegade from Shepard, and be a bad guy. And you're like, sure, you're saving the galaxy in the end, but you're not really doing it the best way.
Right.
So it's like that's why I couldn't really put them on the list because I don't really feel like they're truly a hero since it's based on just whatever random decision and conversation selection you make throughout the game.
Right.
And then my next one I went with Cal Kestis from Jedi Fallen Order. The reason I couldn't put him on the list is because I feel like what I mentioned when we were doing the video game villains is Trilla is the stronger of the two characters. I do enjoy Cal from the game, but but Trilla was just my favorite character overall from Jedi Fallen Order. And so as much as I do enjoy Cal, I couldn't put him on like the top 4 just because he's not like the first character I think of when I think about the game.
Okay.
So I'll
I
stop
was
there and
very
then leave
curious.
it. Oh yeah, like he is a character that's really high up there, but yeah, since Trilla is just ranked so much higher, and he's like he just doesn't have as much development in the first game as I would have liked. And granted, with the second one coming out next month, that may change. That may bump him up a little bit higher on the list, but at least for now, I had to place him on the honorable mentions.
Yeah.
So I've got a few more, but I'll stop there so David can mention some of his.
Thank you. That sounds kind of accusatory, but thank you.
No, I'm trying to balance it out. If you want to take it a different way, that's on you, boo boo.
Yeah, so I
You
put
did
in
also. No, go ahead.
I put in Gordon Freeman, Barney Calhoun, and Alex Vance from the Half-Life series. These are the 3 characters from that series. Gordon is the definitive silent protagonist. Like Gordon doesn't even have grunt noises in the game files at all. So, I mean, he does the whole silent protagonist thing even better than another individual on my list for honorable mentions. So I'm lumping all 3 of these together because it's kind of hard to take them apart, though they are largely separated throughout both the main games. But well, I guess I can officially say through the 3 main games right now. Barney was the hero that no one really expected to come about because he was part of a standalone expansion, Blue Shift. Alex was kind of a surprise character in the second game, who then gets a spinoff later, or who more recently got a spinoff. But those 3 are they're all working towards the same end, but it's kind of the fact that they keep playing off each other and how their mean are uniquely different, but also poignantly of no, we have to find the moral high ground here. So yeah.
Nice.
So that was 3 and 1. Caleb, go for it. Or Dan, either one.
I think Dan
I
said he
literally
didn't have
have
any,
0.
right? Yep.
Oh,
Yeah,
you
no,
literally have 0.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, Caleb,
so
I'll do a similar thing that you did with like multiple characters from the same game, and I'm going to go with Soap and Price from Modern Warfare.
there you go.
Because they're like partners throughout the whole series, and they like do all of the missions together, and it's like they're kind of like the sarcastic bros. So like they just fit hand in hand too well together. So I had to go with them, and having grown up with the older Modern Warfare games when we were in high school and college, and then going into the remakes where they've even expanded on those characters even more. And just how fun the games have been and how good the stories have been. Like I had to add them on the list just because they're such fun, cool characters and like really good designs as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So okay, I will add some honorable mention stuff here because I just thought of them. Again, it's the adaptation or the video game adaptation versions of them, but Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli from
the Lord of the Rings game.
Yeah, from Return of the King, especially.
That's fair. Like I hadn't thought about that, but as soon as you said the names, I thought of that game immediately. I was like, oh yeah, there it is.
Yep.
I mean, just them being who they are in the movies and being able to actually play them is like, yeah.
And that was a really well-made game, I gotta say. Like
for its time, definitely.
Yeah. I remember playing that one with a neighbor kid that he was homeschooled, and so when I would get home from school, he'd pretty much come over like every day or every other day. He was like, "Let's play," and so we just go and just binge that game as much as we could.
Yep.
Yeah,
like even in the Game Boy version, they were pretty well fleshed out.
Yeah.
The Game Boy version?
Yes, there was a Game Boy Advance version of both Two Towers and Return of the King.
Dude, I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I never had a Game Boy Advance, so guess it really wouldn't have mattered to me anyway. But but anyway, go ahead.
Yep.
Continue on.
Next one I have is Samus Aran. She's the main character from the Metroid series. The Metroidvania style is probably, I would say it's probably it's in my top 3 genres or styles of games that I enjoy, because it makes you focus more on, okay, hang on, where have I been where I couldn't get any further. So it keeps you engaged more than just the story points, but even through the gameplay as well. But Samus is a intergalactic bounty hunter, mostly going after invasive species, that sort of thing. Comes across the alien race, the Metroids, which are an invasive parasitic species. But yeah, I think I was part of that crowd growing up. The first couple playthroughs is like, oh yeah, okay, this is a pretty cool character. Wait, what? Whenever you finally finish the game. So Samus has kind of had some staying power. That just, it's a franchise that they find new ways to keep it interesting. So not quite enough for me to put her on the top 4, but definitely honorable mention.
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason why like people are just clamoring for a new Metroid game. Like it's just, that series is loved by a lot of people, and they're just waiting for the day that we get a sequel.
Yep. Caleb?
So my next one, I went with Auron from Final Fantasy X.
Oh,
that's another game that I have a long-standing love for. And Auron was just such a cool character. He's kind of like that samurai style design and fighting style, and he's just got this big katana, but it's just ridiculously big, and like he just hits like a truck, and like, which that's always my favorite style in gaming, is like I always lean more towards the characters that can like take a hit and hit even harder. And so Auron just kind of fits that bill really well. And he also gets to make a brief comeback in Kingdom Hearts 2, which was a really fun little tie-in since they bring in various Final Fantasy characters. So he's just such a cool character and cool design. And he's one that like he's the first party member character that gets introduced in Final Fantasy X. And so he's kind of like with you, even though he's not in the party until several hours into the game. He's one that you get introduced and start to build that bond with earlier than some of the others. And he's just, again, he's such a cool character. So yeah, I had to add him on the list for sure.
Absolutely.
I'll go ahead and knock out another one. My next one, I went with Geralt from Witcher. And I love the Witcher series. The Witcher characters, because I've only actually played the third game. But I've seen playthroughs of 1 and 2, and Geralt is just such a cool character, and Henry Cavill was like absolute perfect casting choice. No one else will ever be Geralt.
Agreed.
He's just such a cool character, and he's another one that's like, you do have some conversation stuff, but he's the same character, so it doesn't really change like it did with like Shepard and Revan and so on. So like he's just such a cool character, and it's like the game was really good, and that was one of the like first games I got to play when I moved out several years ago. So it's like it's just so fun. It's so fun. I love that game, and I had to add him to the list as well. So
nice.
Cool. I'll add another one on there. Sonic the Hedgehog.
There you go. That's a classic choice.
Yep.
Specifically from was it Sonic? Oh shoot.
Dreamcast?
No, there was one that had the specific level in it. It wasn't pinball, but it was something similar.
I want to say that was Sonic 2.
I think it was.
Yeah. Wow, I can't believe I even yeah, because it was one of the original side-scrolling ones, right?
I think so.
Okay.
It's been a very long time since I played it,
but same.
Yeah, it's been a while. I've only actually played one Sonic game, and that was on the Sega back in the day. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll throw one more on there real quick, just because it's quick. And I, again, haven't played through the full game of it, but Rayman.
Oh yeah, that's another classic one.
Not familiar.
That is another classic pick.
Yeah, it's such a weird game, but like for some reason it was a lot of fun to play, and like it was very much on the same level as Crash Bandicoot, but in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I might have to go look this one up.
They're fun games. So I would check it out. Like they had a new-ish one that came out. I guess it's 7 or 8 years, maybe 10 years now, but they're fun. It's kind of like a similar platforming style as some of the other games that we've talked about tonight. But a little bit of different design and story elements and whatnot. Like they're fun. I would definitely recommend it. If you like games like Jak and Daxter or Ratchet and Clank and stuff like that, I think you would get a kick out of it.
Yeah. Agreed.
All right. So Caleb, this one is probably a gimme, but another one I'd put in there is Link from the Legend of Zelda series.
Yep. He's such a one of the reasons I didn't have him on my list is just because he doesn't speak.
Yep.
Like that was, I couldn't really put him on my list because I was like, okay, no, like he literally never talks the entire series. So it's like he's a cool character and cool design, but like I can't I can't put him on the list because he doesn't talk.
But he is a wonderful musician. You have to give him that.
It is quite a big selling point for a hero, though. Is like if he doesn't talk, it's like, is it really a hero? It's because it's just like, okay, you're just there.
True, very true, and arguably it's kind of the same with Gordon Freeman as well from earlier. But yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. It's like I guess that's been part of one of the more endearing things for his character is just the fact that he doesn't talk. So it's like he's consistent. You can't deny that. He's very consistent. He's always the same, which I guess that kind of like falls in the same category as Red from Pokemon. Like he never speaks, but like everyone still loves him. So I guess it's kind of like where it comes in.
Yeah.
Sorry, you say that, and all I can think of is one of the first gaming conventions I went to. Somebody dressed up as Twitch Plays Pokemon.
Oh no.
They didn't do it for long.
Yeah, that tracks. That tracks.
They basically just stood in the free play lobby, and people would just yell out, "Left, right, throw an item, forward, jump."
Yeah, that's about what I would expect.
To the cosplayer's credit, I think he stuck to it for more than an hour, which is far more than I could have. So,
oh yeah, I would not have had the patience to stick with it for that long for sure.
Yeah,
that's funny. So my last honorable mention is Master Chief from Halo.
Ooh,
I had to throw him in there because like Halo was really the only game I had on Xbox for a long time. And me and my old roommate have done so many like legendary playthroughs of all of the different Halo games. Like I think we only have the two most recent Halo games left that we haven't played, and those don't matter. But like the two of us have collectively spent so much time, and we also used to play do LAN parties back in high school where we would just invite everyone over that we knew and have like a couple different Xboxes hooked up and run around playing Halo. So it's like I've put in a lot of hours on Halo, and that was one of the few games I actually played multiplayer on for a long time. So I had to round out the list with Master Chief. It was too fitting.
Yeah. I remember the first real experience I had with Halo was a youth group party that we had at my parents' house, where down in our basement we had a TV set up and everything, and so we had a couple of guys bring over their Xbox, and we played multiplayer for probably a good couple of hours, and it was like, oh, okay, all right, this is fun.
It's fun, especially when you get the right group of people together.
Oh yeah,
because I remember it's just like a running joke with our old group was my old roommate Justin. He would be the one that would typically host it, and we'd have like 2 or 3 different Xboxes hooked up, all connected, so we'd have a pretty large group of people playing. And his younger brother would occasionally play, but he didn't really enjoy it. And we would always play this zombie mode where it's like 1 or 2 players start off as a zombie and they keep dying, but if they manage to kill any of the other players, those other players are immediately turned into a zombie, and they like you keep going until either time runs out or everyone's been turned into a zombie. And so there was always this running joke of, Brian, we need a zombie. And he just hated it. And it's like got to the point where he actually ended up getting pretty good because he just wanted to like make us all mad. But like, oh man, there's so much time spent on Halo back in the day.
Nice. Yeah, so I guess with that, it's kind of down to my last couple. So I'm just going to breeze through them, not really give much backstory on them. The Guildmaster from the Fable series.
Okay, yeah, good choice there.
Vincent Valentine from Final Fantasy VII.
Ooh, yeah.
Simon Belmont from the first 2 Castlevania games.
Okay, classic choices.
Yep. This one was kind of hard for me to throw in there. it's he helps the story, but very indirectly. Deckard Cain from Diablo.
Okay.
Yep. Meat Boy from Super Meat Boy. Just he's an endearing character, okay?
He is.
It's not at all a serious game. True.
I didn't say anything. You assumed what my laugh was.
This is true.
I have never heard of this before, and I feel like I don't want to.
It's actually surprisingly. No, I'm not going to go with that description. It is a platformer that is also a. It is a pixel precision Twitch-based platformer.
Huh.
And not Twitch as in the streaming platform, but Twitch as in like just that slight movement is hit or miss. It's success or failure. It is simultaneously one of the most fulfilling games you will play and one of the most frustrating. And then
like when you're playing Mario and you jump right at the edge of a cliff and you're like hanging off and you're not standing on anything.
Except there's no hanging mechanic.
Okay.
But yes. And then the other one, I don't know. He's on the honorable mentions in part because, again, he's not really the hero. He does push the story on further. And, but additionally, depending on the ending, he's not the hero at all. He's pointedly the enemy. I put in the narrator from the Stanley Parable.
Oh, okay.
Interesting.
Which that one I kind of want to give a little bit of a shout out to. That game has had so much staying power with me. It started off as a mod of the Half-Life games, kind of a standalone campaign that you mod into the base game. But the entire point of it was to make fun of the then growing trend of dynamic narration, which some games managed to pull off. But they would use it to illustrate that if you're writing a story-based game, there's only so much dynamics you can throw into it, into the storytelling, into the world, where really all you're doing is you're putting out the illusion of choice.
Mm-hmm.
And so the entire point of the Stanley Parable, it's a walking simulator. But the entire point is to emphasize this whole premise that, okay, no matter what you do, the creators of the game have already pre-planned what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And they keep updating the game, and I think they are still adding endings to this game. The game's been out for 15 years. At least a decade, and they're still adding endings to it just because it has that much of a cult following.
Interesting.
But the game is absolutely hilarious, where again, some endings he's pointedly the hero, or he's just the narrator, he's just kind of this passive force. Others, he's helping you, the character, move the story along, sometimes to very annoyed effect. Where if honestly, that was one of the games I started to learn about. No. See what the idle animation is, and if there's any Easter egg with it, because there is no idle animation for the main character Stanley. You don't see your character ever.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're away from keyboard every now and then, the narrator will chime in and start mocking you, the player. Yeah. Anyway. I could gush on that one for a long time.
Nice.
Solid list there, gentlemen. I think we had some pretty good options there.
Very good. Mm-hmm.
So that's the end of my list. I don't know about if David has any more or not.
That's the end of mine.
And it is pointedly the end of mine.
I also want to point out what I feel is a horrible overlook in our video game villains list. At least as an honorable mention, GLaDOS.
Yeah, as soon as we finished the recording for the video game villain honorable mentions, we were all like, wait, no one said anything about Portal.
Yep.
And that's because I've never played it, so I don't know.
Fair.
Well, that'll wrap up this episode, but thank you everyone for listening. If you are listening to us and have our social media, please put in your list of some of your favorite video game heroes and villains. And we look forward to doing this list again. We'll probably take a little bit of a break and do a different Mount Rushmore later down the road, but yeah, thanks for listening.
Yep. And just remember, if ever you're low on cash, cut the grass, maybe throw a pot or two around. You might find some cash lying around.
Love you guys. Bye.